afternoon, good evening, all. It's Bear here, and I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, A Box with No Lid, a channel I'm creating not just to bring the awareness of the lived reality and the real world experiences of the day to day life of living with trauma, but I also want to get as much as what I've learned out into the world that I believe is helpful, understandings that do make a difference. And in my hope of creating and improving the lives of those who watch these videos, but also creating the awareness needed to get the changes that are so badly required if we actually want to heal trauma, not just what we focus on now, which is just the management. Now, in this video, I want to step back into a term that bothers me deeply. And it's a term that is used towards children and the welfare of children by all forms of authority. And in many aspects of society, that has now become an embedded belief. And that is that children are resilient. Children are not resilient. We may not see the harm that their experiences create directly post that harm. But if you observe how that harm transitions through in the way that decisions and choices, beliefs and understandings that have been created through that harm play out, you can clearly see that it's not resilience, it's a survival state and coping. Now, I go into this a lot within the adoption side of this channel because I was trafficked and sold. I'm an adoptee. But I want to bring it a little bit on this side of the channel. One, because of a comment on my last video, but also I want to try to get the base of where and why I'm coming from. I named this channel A Box with No Lid because the crib, that plastic box that we're placed in post-birth, that separates us from our mother, that separates us from our father, that separates us from our family, that becomes our embedded world. The understanding of what this creates, this such a critical moment that everything changes because of this plastic box. Every hospital has them, every hospital uses them. In indigenous and old world societies, when births are done at home or births are done within the community, before the umbilical cord is cut, the baby and infant is placed upon the mother to connect, bond, and for the mother and the baby to support each other in the connection and the resolving of how challenging childbirth actually is. Then the father comes in, and all this community and unity that creates a secure attachment, creates a belonging, creates a sense of self, all the facets required to build the foundation of life. Yes, in modern day societies, indigenous and old world communities are so disrupted by outside that this is not as common as it should be. But we need to understand that there's a price tag we pay because we have lost this. And the Western societies in particular need to understand that when you don't place a baby immediately with the mother is affected just as much as the infant. Postpartum depression and all these aspects, SIDS and all these different things come around this component of separation. That box, for a lot of children when they're removed, is their world for weeks, months, and sometimes, up to a year before placement. This plastic box becomes the parent. Hence the name of this channel, A Box with No Lid. And the basis for the understandings that I'm trying to portray of what this stuff and this belief creates. Children are not resilient. Everything a child experiences shapes not only their internal belief system, but also all the autonomic responses of threat, all the structures of stress responses, survival states, and all these belief systems within the nervous system of the body. It sets up their entire future, their ability to be in and participate in productive relationships, engagements in the world, and engagement in society. Their ability to dream and create the physical manifestation of their ideas and their goals, to actually have goals and aspirations. their responses to how they behave in society. All these facets are instilled from the first, well, in utero, through the first breath, and through early childhood. And when we use terms like children are resilient, we condone all the aspects of society and the system that harm children in that regard. Not just the obvious, like domestic violence and poverty, food insecurity, and so forth, but also how bullying is tolerated in every school system we have, in every aspect of our society. It goes all the way through an adult. There is as much bullying in the adult workplace as there is in preschool and primary school. We create and feed this belief that somebody else can fix, that these problems will become somebody else's issues to resolve. And in reality, they kind of do. The resilience of children, that understanding, is what creates generational trauma. We see how this plays out with indigenous communities in colonized countries around the world. We can see how it plays all the way through. For years, I have pushed for research to be done in the areas, or using the areas where the most evidence and understandings can be obtained. When you're looking for how survival states and how trauma plays out with working with indigenous communities, you can clearly see. Working within the poorest sectors of society, you can clearly see. You can follow generations of domestic violence survivors from multitudes of generations. In Western society, it's easy to follow through from World War One. Never in human history have so many young men died and were removed from society, and the ones that came back walked off the battlefield and within 2 weeks were back in their home villages working, drinking and harming, because they were trying to cope with, there was no debriefing, there was no resolving of their experiences. And the amount of domestic violence that was created through that, because women never in Western society have ever stepped up to the roles of men the way they did post-World War One. And all the conflicts and battles from there. Arguably, you could say that is when domestic violence became completely embedded within our society. All these things play out, but we don't do the studies because we don't actually want to change. The companies and the institutions that fund the research want to fund research in areas they can market a solution to later. In the areas that are most harmed by this understanding of the resilience of children and this, how this stuff plays out through our society, are not the areas that are profitable to sell a solution or a product to. So we see it generation after generation after generation play out. We see how what was created in an infant creates the adult that makes the decisions, that takes their family apart down the road. Those children create and learn the same kind of decisions, reinforced in the dysfunctionality of family, of coping with stress and violence and so forth and so forth. And it becomes this embedded societal, sociological structure. And that is the Western world. Arguably, America is the classic representation of capitalism in the Western world. And if you go to my former homeland, where I was born, and you genuinely walk around and open your eyes and look, where people are working 3 jobs just to put a roof over their head, just to pay rent. When you look at the level of homelessness and dysfunctionality, the level of poverty and societal decay, you can see how this plays out. And it is dismissed by children are resilient. If we want to solve society's issues, we are society. Society is made up of all of us. And as we try to work with resolving and creating the best lives we can, we need to understand the paths that create it. And this is what has motivated me to make this channel. I'm trying to put what I see every day reflected around me, what I've tried to learn and heal and resolve, what I've advocated for and screaming to the system about, if we want to fix this, we need to look at this, we need to resolve this. I want to give some value to everything that I've been through by putting this out there before I pass. But I also want, in a way, to try to give this information in a way that will be helpful. To try to create a base where people can go to get maybe that one piece of information that can change them for that day. The suicidality that surrounds us in our society is horrific. Everything we see around us is horrific. And it does come down to the simple fact that we think that the children we raise will cope with no matter what we throw at them. And those children become the adults of the next generation that do the same thing. And we've experienced that for countless generations to create the issues that we have in our society today. In healing trauma, we heal our society, we heal ourselves, we heal our society. We heal the world that we are, we heal our society and world. I truly believe this. I also truly believe that the way the modern world approaches healing trauma will never work because it's a product model. Yeah, there are components that are highly beneficial, but as a whole, it will never work because it's reliant upon things that are not present in the lives of those that have experienced or lived with trauma. But an old world understanding, bringing it into the base that we can plug all these other facets in, will. Without a community and without a secure base, we cannot heal the core trauma that we've inherited and that we've learned in our developing years. If we can address and start to heal that, then we can address and start to heal all that core trauma created throughout our life. It is kind of that simple. The way we heal that trauma is using a therapy to get prepared and ready to be able to release. Once we start to release, once our body feels safe enough to release, we need to have the society around us, the community around us, to help teach us how to relearn, how to belong and be part of. That is healing trauma. There are many paths to this. But it all comes down to the recognition of that core base, that structure that runs in the background that I've made numerous videos upon and I will continue to make videos upon. But I hope this video makes a little bit more of an understanding of why I created this channel, what I'm hoping to achieve through this channel, and also the name, A Box With No Lid. I love you guys' comments and feedback. I thank you for your time. Please be mindful, please be safe, and I'll see you all next time.